but something that we all can do something about. By building this wonderful collection of Chinese plants, Bill McNamara and his associates not only are helping these plants to survive, and when you consider that we get all of our food from plants directly or indirectly, that most people in the world get all of their medicines from plants, that for those of us who get prescription drugs, a quarter of them come from plants, that the hillsides protect the watersheds and the climates that we enjoy, and that the beauty and the aesthetics of plants enrich our lives to an unbelievable degree. You can then see how important it is to save these plants and how important it is that Bill and his colleagues and all the members of the board and volunteers and all concerned with Quarryhill have done such a great job in saving them. Beyond that, it has the value of internationalism. We hope that the financial crisis of 3 years ago taught people to understand that no nation could survive on its own, that we're all heavily entwined with one another, that the United States deals with every nation on earth in an effort to support its economy, and that the solutions to our problems or our abilities to eventually find sustainability can only be realized if we understand that and if we cooperate with nations all over the world, none more importantly than China. It's very bizarre that the United States, which is the very country, our country, which we love and are so proud of, is the country among industrialized countries that spends the less per capita on international development assistance, and which refuses repeatedly to spend any money on family planning around the world, even when the people's policies have to do with things that are perfectly legal here. Quarryhill, by symbolizing the close cooperation between China and the United States, by symbolizing our love for plants and our appreciation for their utility and their beauty, and by being a strong community effort that I congratulate you all for supporting, is a wonderful way of dealing with the world as it really is. We all could throw up our hands and wring them and lament everything and feel really bad about the way things are going. But myself, I'd rather wander through the beautiful shaded pathways here, see the fantastic plants, and think about what a kind of a future we can build through our individual actions. In that vein, I'd like to congratulate Bill and every other single one of you who's made this institution what it is, and an institution with which, with your help, we'll be looking forward to a fantastic, wonderful, contributing, enjoyable, participatory future. Thank you.
It's been my lot on several occasions to go to a microphone after Peter Raven. Why do I get that slot? This is my fourth visit to Quarryhill, a place that is really beautiful and I love it a lot, the people and the plants. I'm new on the advisory board, so I'm the new boy. None of my advice has happened yet. It's coming soon. Over those 4 visits, I've seen tremendous change already in this garden, which is a young garden. The institution I come from started in 1670. We've had a long time to get it right. But in just however many years it is, not many, this place has got it right, really rapidly. It proves that you can start from a vineyard and make a botanic garden of world class in a very short space of time. I've seen literally the plants growing up physically, but I think also institutionally the reputation of Quarryhill around the world has grown in that time too. So believe me, those of you who are locals, this is a garden with a growing reputation in China and around the world. People know about this. Now, why is that? I would say that in particular, something truly outstanding that happened here is that the plants we see around us are collected from the wild. These are samples of the planet's biodiversity. And just as in the early days, when plant hunters would go out and bring back plants for their garden, these have been collected by people, Bill, several members of the advisory board. I have to say that while Bill and I have been in China together, we were hiking mainly and not particularly collecting plants. But they've been collected in that tradition of going to the remote places of the world, exploring, looking for the plants, bringing them back and finding out how to grow them. And some of them haven't really been grown before, so you need a team of the quality and calibre that you have here, Bill. And I think for me then, one part is wild origin plants, samples of the Earth's biodiversity. The other part is the people, Bill and his team, who can actually do that and grow them and keep them alive when that maybe hasn't ever been really attempted before. Those are very special things. And I mean that the future of Quarryhill, I think, is profoundly important. As I stand here, I'm facing a good friend of mine, Sarah Oldfield, the head of Botanic Gardens Conservation International, who wrote a beautiful book which describes botanic gardens as arks. And we all know about Noah's Ark, but that concept of the botanic garden being the place that holds for the future the diversity of life, saves it and carried it forward, is something that you expressed in a really beautiful way. And this place is one of those living examples of just that. These plants that we're surrounded by will be profoundly important in the future. As Peter has explained, in a way nobody else really could put that together, the planet's in trouble. The plants are in trouble. It's down to people like those of you who can support a great garden like this to make a difference. And for me, it's just a great pleasure to be invited on to the advisory board. And I have to say that I don't really envy other botanic gardens around the world. I'm in Edinburgh, I'm very happy there. But actually there is one place I think I'd rather be than at home. And we're standing in it.
This is the last one, so
I'll keep it brief as well. I mean, how do you follow those two? So what I just want to describe for you is a bit of a personal journey which has brought me to this point tonight. And by association, perhaps, to explain to you why the plants here are so important. Believe it or not, I grew my first prize-winning cabbage when I was 8 years old, and my mother was delighted that her young boy could do this. I then began my professional horticulture when I joined a local parks department at the age of 16, and then progressed to the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, as you just heard about, as a student in the 1980s. So I moved much more into the botanical world that you've heard something about. But in a way, what really set my life path onwards was when I first went to a wild place in South Korea in 1989 with Tony Kirkham, who's behind me here. And for the first time to be exposed to those wild plants was a revelation to me. I knew many of them as cultivated plants, but nothing prepares you for how you will see them in the wild. And old friends become so much more intimate because you now know where they naturally grow. I then went to China for the first time with Bill and the Quarryhill team and Charles Howick behind me, and again Tony, in 1996. And that was a further development simply because of what you've heard, that China is the treasure house for temperate plants, the place where the whole diversity of temperate plants can be found. And from that point I visited China many times, and the great thrill for me coming round or back to Quarryhill and walking round this afternoon with the rest of the board members is to see a patch of China on a Californian hillside, because the work that they've done here very much allows you to immerse yourself in what is essentially an East Asian flora. So you are all very fortunate to have that in this valley and to be available for all of the things that you've heard. So I would join the other two speakers in commending Bill and his team for what they've created here and for realising the dream of Jane Jansen all those years ago when this was a relatively barren hillside. So well done to Quarryhill. Thank you.
You notice that Mark was really excited to see plants in the wild. That's because in England there's only 17 different plants. Is Bruce Bartholomew here? Yes. Where's Bruce Bartholomew? Peter? Right here. He's here. Over there. Bruce Bartholomew was on the board of directors for Quarryhill Botanical Garden. He's been a researcher at the California Academy of Sciences for many, many years. Before that, he was at UC Berkeley, and he's a dear friend, and Peter has some things to say about him.
Yeah, I don't much care for his attitude. No, Bruce. Come up and stand by me. I first got to know Bruce's family through through his father, George Bartholomew, who was a great scientist and one of the first people who worked on the physiological ecology and thermoregulation of vertebrate animals. The line I can remember from your father was that after the year you spent in Australia, he studied what was in the stomach contents of sharks, and after that he was never able to pull the plug up out of the bathtub. Now, Bruce, come closer. The Flora of China Committee, I described the adventure that we've had from the late 1980s onward. And I would like to say that Bruce, with his characteristic modesty, with his lifelong love for China, with his deep devotion to the Chinese people and his interest in the culture, in their culture, has made a fantastic contribution to the Flora of China from his position at the California Academy of Sciences. And after retiring from the California Academy of Sciences, has continued full blast. Largely, almost entirely as a volunteer, has Bruce done all of this, and the caliber of this 25-volume work describing the 32,500 species of China owes its success in no small measure to Bruce's selfless, modest, and quiet devotion. In short, he's a hell of a guy. What I would like to say, Bruce, is that we have a beautiful plaque to send you, and it will come by express mail. Actually, knowing your new interests, we've carved it out of walrus tusks. Bruce is an inveterate collector. This is actually bronze, but you will get it by express mail. We just